Hi, I'm Ashley.
I'm Ha. And I'm Katie.
And the paper we're presenting on today is Doubling Your Payoff, Winning Pain Relief Engages Endogenous Inhibition. So the introduction to our paper, the authors discuss how nearly everyone experiences the feelings of pain, and so we all seek to relieve this pain. And when we are relieving pain, this is considered a motivated state, and so our perception of pain is different in this state. So when we're trying to get rewards such as food or money, these things tend to induce endogenous pain relief. And so the experience of wanting something and then liking it when you get it sort of enhance each other. And the authors discuss sort of neurochemical pathways in the brain that could assist with this. So opioid release in the reward pathway increases pleasurable anticipation, and then dopamine release in states of motivation increases release of opioids, so they sort of feed back on each other. So the authors were questioning, they want to know whether winning pain relief will induce motivated states of endogenous relief, and they also wanted to know about pain inhibition related to different personality traits.
Okay, so in order to test their hypothesis, they designed a method to create a condition in which the participant thought that they have the winning or losing just by pure luck, and that game have the same setting as the Wheel of Fortune. And in this experiment, the participants are comprised of 35 healthy volunteers. There are 18 female and 17 males. And also they have some kind of criteria to keep the baseline of similarity amongst the participants. For example, participants must not have the history of psychiatric disorder or like substance abuse or excessive gambling.
So how they actually caused pain without causing structural damage as well is they used a cream that contains the active ingredient of chili peppers. And what this ingredient does is it kind of tricks the pain receptor neurons into thinking it's under high heat conditions. So they put the cream on the inside of the non-dominant forearm and left it there for about 20 minutes. And so that brings these neurons into thinking that they're under high heat conditions, so any change in temperature and even mild temperatures can seem extremely painful. It feels like, you know, they're burning even though they're actually not. So there's no structural damage, but they can still cause some level of pain without actually hurting the people. So after they went through the sensitization period, the researchers assessed the participants' level of mildly painful, so they didn't want to go too high or too low. They wanted to keep it kind of mildly uncomfortable so that they knew there was pain, but nothing too extreme. And that mildly painful level is what they started at the beginning of each trial.
Okay, so getting to the methods, they are playing a Wheel of Fortune-like game, and there are two trials, the test trial and the control trial. And all participants participate in both trials, and they are told to memorize that original threshold of pain, and then they are presented with a wheel that has 3 colored sections. So figure 1 shows what a test trial would look like. First they're told to memorize the initial pain. Then they are given 2 options between a blue button and a purple button, and they are told to press one of the buttons, and the wheel will spin. And if it lands on the color of the button that they chose, they experience a relief of their pain. If it lands on the color that they had the option of choosing but did not choose, there's an increase in their pain. And if it lands on the white, which was not an option for them to choose, then there's no increase or decrease in the pain. Versus a control trial, in which the individuals are just presented with a black button, and they press the button, the wheel spins randomly, and they randomly receive increases, decreases, or no change in their pain. And there's no really rhyme or reason to exactly which color is going to give what outcome. So they can't anticipate anything. And then they receive that pain, and then they start back at the same amount of pain after each trial.
So in the experiment, they have the within participant design. That means each participant will have both the test trial and the control trial. That means at times participants feel that they anticipate for the outcome. At times they don't have any anticipation because they didn't have the choice. So each participant played 18 trials, 9 test trial and 9 control trial. And although the participant thought that the outcome are just pure luck, actually the researcher in this experiment control and manipulated the outcome. For example, in the test trial, the participant will win 3 times, lose 3 times, and they will experience no change in terms of pain induction 3 times.
So the reason for having all these trials is to try to control for anything outside of just winning or losing pain relief. So the no change trials were controlling just for the effects of playing the game, for increases with anticipation or with timing. Having the losing trials controls for arousal effects, so there's obviously emotion involved in winning and in losing, so to see if there's any difference between winning and losing in terms of arousal, physiologically speaking. Also created a more realistic game environment. If there's no chance to lose, then winning doesn't mean a whole lot and probably won't have the same effects on pain relief that it would if there is a chance to lose. And then the control trials were, again, controlling for the simulation, the computer setup of the room, the environment, anything else that could be impacting how the participants are perceiving their pain, and also to prevent or try to distinguish for any kind of association between color and outcome. So since it was different every time, they were trying to control and make sure there was no anticipation by the participants of which color would cause which outcome.
Okay, so then they get into the ratings. So after each trial, they experience either the pain increase, decrease, or no change. So they have to rate the intensity and the pleasantness versus unpleasantness of the pain. And then they're told to adjust the intensity of the pain using a dial to what they remember it being before they began the trial. And then they also had a skin conductance response done. It was measured off of the middle finger. And basically it was just averaged over each participant over each of the 6 conditions.
So after the participants have done all the experiment, they get out of the room and they were asked to fill out a questionnaire, which is a temperament and character inventory. In that questionnaire, they provide information about their personalities and they will use that to analyze later. Also, the researchers interview the participants about that experiment itself. For example, they ask if the participant has used any strategy while they play the game, or whether they perceive any randomization or non-randomization during the playing.
So then how the researchers analyzed all this data is they did a lot of tests called ANOVAs, which are analysis of comparing the different means of different measurements, so the averages of groups. So they compared lots of different conditions to see if there were any differences between them. They ended up excluding the data from 9 participants because these participants did not perceive the game as painful, so their data didn't mean a whole lot since they were trying to assess the effects of pain. So the researchers thought that this might have been due to the distraction of playing the game, but they're not exactly sure. They also wanted to check for differences between choice patterns, so if participants used any kind of strategy in choosing colors or anything like that. They also wanted to test for the effects of certain personality traits on the effects of winning and losing. So the one that they specifically looked at was novelty seeking in this case.
Okay, so getting into their results, first we start with the behavioral results. So this is looking at their ratings of the intensity of the pain after receiving it versus what they thought it was at the beginning. And the really significant data that we want to focus on here is these 2 bars. And what it shows is basically that there was sensitization to the pain, but they were less sensitive to the pain when they had the opportunity to win pain relief than they were in the control trial when they did not have this opportunity. So this really supports the hypothesis that the authors were first stating.
And this graph shows the pain perception based on the VAS intensity scale. The VAS intensity scale is over here, so it includes 6 phases with the face express like emotion. Okay, and in this graph, these axes show the intensity of the pain. So the higher the graph, the higher the bar, the more painful the person feels. In the pain increase, both in both trial, the test trial and the control trial group, they feel both painful. And when there is no change, the test trial people feel more painful than the control trial. However, when the pain actually relief, people in the test trial, because they anticipated the winning, so therefore they feel less painful than their counterpart. And they explain this by the endogenous pain inhibition.
And so finally they measured skin conductance, which, like Ashley mentioned before, is a measure of arousal. So skin becomes a better conductor of electricity in a higher state of arousal. So more arousal equals more skin conductance. They found that in all of the test trials versus all of the control trials, skin conductance was faster for the participants, meaning that they were more aroused when they had the opportunity to pick the color and win or lose versus when they were passively participating in pain relief or increase. They also found that skin conductance was higher with pain increase in all of the trials versus pain relief. So participants became more aroused whether or not they had the opportunity to choose pain increase if their pain increased.
So next they move on to test the relationship between personality trait and the endogenous pain inhibition, and they found that the more the person feel less painful due to the endogenous pain inhibition, the higher their point on the scale of novelty seeking. And this graph shows the relationship between the pain modulation. Actually, this is a negative relationship. And the correlation, the correlational is 0.29, and that is a moderate relationship.
So on to the discussion. What does all of this mean? So the big takeaway from this paper is that motivation can increase the effects of pain relief. So not only if you win your pain relief, not only do you perceive your pain as less painful than it was, but you get more of that pain relief. And the theory is that it starts an endogenous kind of internal pain relief process. And the researchers did find that novelty-seeking personality trait increased those. So there's a huge emotional effect on all of these. So an area for future studies would be what happiness can affect in terms of pain relief. So most of us, when we win something, we're happy about it. So, are those two separate effects on pain, or does it matter if we separate them out? So that would be something to study in the future. So like I mentioned, the theory here is that there's a positive feedback loop created with reward pathways or dopamine pathways in the brain. And the reason that the researchers believe this is happening is because novelty seeking has been related to those dopamine pathways. Since they found novelty seeking is related to pain relief, they thought that the same pathways might be increasing your pain relief if you have the opportunity to win it. So one of the most important things here is that there's a clinical impact from this study, especially talking about people that have chronic pain or are in really intense pain. So we're not exactly sure how playing Wheel of Fortune can translate to clinical pain relief, but certainly there could be future research studies to get us closer to providing better and more efficient pain relief to patients that are suffering from chronic pain. Thank you.
Thank you.